Another one of my self-defense analysis, and today I'm going to be going over with you verbal de-escalation in self-defense. Going over cases with you on the most effective strategies in verbally diffusing your attackers, and explain why it's so important to start off with that first if you can, and why they work, a little bit of why they work, and more tips on that. So here we go. So first we have a case of this woman who got robbed at gunpoint by a robber. It says here, imagine you're at a dinner party and a man with a gun walks in to rob you. How would you respond? Michael Rabdel's response in such a situation was naturally be scared, very scared. Another guest did something unusual. As a Washington, D.C. resident describes an episode of the podcast Invisibilia, guest reached out to the robber and said, would you like to share a glass of wine with us? Everyone surprised and relief when treated kindly. The robber calmed down, apologized, and left without hurting anyone or taking any money. So, scientists are still trying to figure out why this works, but it works. So, non-complimentary behavior is it's basically an approach of not doing what the robber expects you to do, not doing what your attacker expects you to do. It's about doing the exact opposite. Because when you do the exact opposite of what your attacker wants you to do, then it creates a completely different response than if you were defensive and stuff like that. So, pretty powerful stuff. Next case. Last week, Mr. Donovan and I were in a shuttle at the Kansas City airport heading back to the parking lot where we left our car. After an amazing vacation, soon after we sat down, a man sitting across from us on the bus began yelling that the driver had skipped his terminal. The driver apologized, said he would get back to him as soon as possible. The man called someone and cursed loudly about his bad luck, then hung up and cursed some more. His body language suggested that he might jump out of his seat and assault the driver, who made repeated apologies and was visibly frightened. Sitting across from him, I planned what would do if the situation escalated. I would ask him where he was going and empathize with his problem. Although he was completely out of line, I was pretty angry at him for scaring the driver and other passengers. I thought some understanding and acknowledgement of his frustration might help calm him down. Who knows if it would have worked or not? The driver left him off at a stop, telling him another bus was coming to take him back to his terminal, and the guy got off still cursing. So as you can see, the guy was pretty much taking out his frustrations and anger and all these negative emotions, and person here tried to resolve the situation peacefully. And there we go, and it ended peacefully. So as you can see, you'll want to be aware of your surroundings, be conscious of who's around you and what they're feeling, what they plan on doing, things of that sort, so that you can verbally diffuse the situation. Next case, um, says here, imagine being held at gunpoint, then let go with a hug. Crazy as it sounds, that's what happened to a Houston security guard Wednesday. He was like, "Where's your wallet?" I reached for my wallet. He let me reach for it and opened it, and it was like I didn't have any money. Suzellen Bailey works for Top Gun Security. Said the would-be robbery went down near South Gessner and West Belfort. She was in her car, but before she could pull off, a gunman hungry for cash forced his way into the back seat, demanding she drive him to a Wells Fargo ATM. I drove to the bank and I was telling him I don't even bank here. So I'm like, what do you do? What do you want me to do? He just started breaking down in the back seat. He was like, I have two daughters at home. I have a 9 to 5 job, and he started apologizing. Bailey credits her on-the-job security training and background in law enforcement for her own survival. Sounds like her negotiation skills turned what could have been a tragedy into triumph.
Yes, it was a very scary, traumatic time. To a crowded room, Kelly McManus.
Okay, so um, this is pretty good. She she recognized the situation she was in, and and then she asked, she talked to him, engaged in dialogue, tried to work out a solution, and and then finally the guy broke down and and he just got demoralized and he didn't want to rob anymore. So that's pretty good. You have to know about your attacker. You have to know what he or she is going through in order to potentially defuse the situation. Next case, 9/11 call captures school employee talking down gunman. We hear some of the 911 call from a Georgia school clerk to the police earlier this week. Antonetti Tuff, who works at the McNear Discovery Learning Center, talked to 20-year-old gunman who was brandishing an AK-47 and shooting at police into giving himself up. There was a report of a gunman at an elementary school outside Atlanta. Had a happy ending thanks to the heroic actions of a woman who made the 911 call. She said, I'm in 2nd Avenue in the school, and the gentleman said, tell them to hold down the police officer coming, and he said he was going to start shooting, so tell them to back off. Her name is Antonetti, can't pronounce that right, Tuff, that's Tuff. She works in the front office at Ronald E. McNair Discovery Learning Academy. Um, there's a 20-year-old man named Michael Hill walked into school with an AK-47. I'm in the front office. Oh, he just went outside and started shooting. Oh, can I run? Hold on. She did not run. When the gunman returned, she calmly relayed his demands to the police dispatcher. Now what do you want me to tell her, sir? Okay, told me what you want to call him. Okay. Police say Michael Hill was carrying 500 rounds of ammunition, and she simply kept him talking. She said, he doesn't want the kids, he wants the police, so back off. He doesn't care if he lives or dies. He has nothing to live for. So she bonds with the gunman. She said that he should have went to the mental hospital instead of doing this because he's not on medication. She offers to help him and find a solution so he doesn't have to go away for a long time. Gunman mentioned suicide. She says, "No, you don't want to do that. You're going to be okay." I thought the same thing. I tried to commit suicide last year after my husband left me. Look at me now. I'm still working. Everything's okay. Uh, the guy said he was sorry. Lay down his weapon. Um, so tells him that she loves him. It's going to be all right. Um, and situation is diffused, and uh, police arrested him, and it did not end in tragedy. So um, that's the case where verbal self-defense, verbal de-escalation worked. Um, and here, what I liked about this is that she emphasized with her attacker, because when you emphasize, when you you bond with your attacker, then it humanizes you, humanizes them, and it makes it harder for the attacker to um, makes it harder for him or her to attack you, um, depending on the situation. So this was pretty well done, especially considering that active shooters are typically suicidal and homicidal at the same time. A lot of them are. So pretty good. Here we have another case. Teacher at Florida high school confronted a suspected gunman in the hallway last week. Listened to him patiently. 10-year-old veteran of a Florida high school confronted a suspected gunman. 19-year-old Sky Bouch in the hallway moments after he shot through a classroom door, striking a 17-year-old student in the ankle. The student was taken to a hospital with a non-life-threatening injury. There was an angel on my shoulder. She went out into the hallway, saw an unidentified, hysterical woman coming towards her, claiming she'd heard gunshots. He reached into his vest, took out shotgun shells and a folding knife, laying them on a classroom desk. So they had a dialogue, and he did not attend the school much, and that he struggled. Um, so yeah, pretty much verbally de-escalated the situation, and so that's pretty good. Again, trying to understand your attacker is very important before things get violent. Um, this case, we have a case of Hero Cop, Anirudh Malay, talked reasonably to the clearly stressed man. He convinced him to hand over his knife, and so let's get right down to it. This police officer in this video provides an exceptional example of how to calm a potentially explosive, violent situation. A man armed with a large knife enters the Hue Quang police station in Thailand. Instead of being banged up in Bangkok, he is met with a huge hug from an officer. Anirudh Malay, the 48-year-old assailant, had entered the station on Saturday night. It was caught on tape. So we're just gonna have to wait for the ad to load. He has a knife, but the hero officer Anirudh sits down very calmly opposite of him, very relaxed, slumped shoulders, very non-threatening body language. Quickly convinces the assailant to hand over his knife. Um, when he does, the policeman throws the knife away and approaches the assailant. Arms outstretched, embraces the man with a giant hug. The man armed with a large knife enters. Can't remember I read that. But look at the pictures. See here the man with the knife, and the guy is completely calm. He's not at all intimidated. Um, so, yep. Okay, let's just watch the video. That's the end of it. So this is very important. This is probably one of the hardest things to do because we're not used to it. But um, it's very important to be confident and not scared of the knife. Um, and not, basically not do anything to scare your attacker and whatnot, and things of that sort. So that's it's a very good, valuable skill to have. Verbal de-escalation. Here we have another case. Oh, we already read that. Okay. Maryland pastor held at gunpoint uses Jesus' name to talk down an armed robber. This guy was conducting a Bible study at his church last Thursday when armed man entered the church, gestured as if he had a gun, demanded everyone's wallets and phones. He said, I stood up and said, no, we're not having this, we're not doing this. And I walked up to him and said, leave in Jesus' name. When I told him we were worshiping God, he changed. His demeanor changed. And it was as if an awareness came to him that perhaps this wasn't the right thing for him to do. The robber tried to attack him again, pointing the gun at his neck, kept insisting that he didn't want to shoot. Um, he told the man he didn't have to do anything and that the armed man eventually left without incident. So, yeah, again, this is an example of non-complimentary behavior. Gunman expects people to hand over their valuables and be on the defensive, and when the people don't give him that reaction and are confident, then completely throws off uh, the gunman, and it changes the power dynamic, and pretty much verbally de-escalates the situation and doesn't end in bloodshed. So that's why these are the most powerful self-defense methods that you'll ever need. If you use them, then you rarely will need to engage in violent conflict and stuff like that. So it's pretty underrated in self-defense community, but it's pretty much one of the most effective ways of defending yourself. So um, that's all I gotta say on verbal de-escalation and self-defense. If you want to take a course in verbal de-escalation with a lot more in-depth advice, then check out my Fiverr gig below. The link will be in the description, and also have a free lesson available if you want to take it on situational awareness. And that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment if you have any questions or any thoughts that you want to share, and I'll see you later.